The bottle in the scrapyard. Oren walked alone through the scrapyard. It was not just any scrapyard. It was the largest junk planet in the sector. Broken ships, rusted machines, and old alien tech lay everywhere. No one came here unless they were desperate. Oren was. His boots made soft crunching sounds over cracked metal and dusty glass. The red sun above was weak, casting a strange orange light over the endless junk. He pulled his hood tighter. The wind carried a dry, bitter smell. Burnt, wires and broken dreams. He wasn't always a junk scavenger. Once he worked in a clean station fixing air filters and robot arms. But after the company closed, he had nothing. Now he searched the dead bones of machines to survive. He sold whatever still worked. Wires, memory chips, tiny energy cores. He moved deeper into the scrapyard. Oren spotted something unusual. A half-buried alien cruiser, one he'd never seen before. Its design was smooth like a giant silver teardrop. The metal didn't look rusted. In fact, it shone faintly, almost like it was breathing. His heart beat faster. Maybe there's something valuable inside, he whispered. He pulled out his cutting tool and made an opening through a thin part of the hull. Inside, it was dark, but his flashlight revealed strange carvings on the walls. Symbols glowed dimly, as if reacting to his presence. It felt alive. Oren stepped carefully, not wanting to fall through any hidden trap. The air smelled clean like flowers, impossible in a dead ship. He entered a small chamber. At its center was a glass pedestal. Sitting on top was a glowing bottle, floating slightly above the surface. It had golden rings around its neck and swirling purple smoke inside. It was beautiful and strange. "What are you?" he asked softly. He reached out. The moment his fingers touched the bottle, everything changed. The carvings lit up. The floor shook. The bottle shot up in the air and cracked open with a deep, echoing sound. A blast of violet light filled the room. Oren covered his eyes. Then, silence. He opened his eyes slowly. Floating in front of him was a girl. No, not a girl. Something more. Her skin was smooth and blue like the deep sea. Her long black hair floated as if underwater. Golden rings circled her wrists and ankles, and her eyes glowed like twin suns. She blinked slowly, confused. Then she looked at him. You are human," she said, her voice soft but powerful. Oren stepped back, unsure. "Yeah, I'm Oren. And who are you?" The being floated down, her feet softly touching the floor. "I am Lyri, the last genie of the high stars. I was sealed in this bottle for many lifetimes. You have awakened me." Oren's mouth went dry. "A genie? Like wish-granting?" She nodded slowly. "I can grant you 3 wishes, human. But I must warn you, each wish has a price. Not from me, but from the balance of the universe. Still, they are yours." Oren stared at her. She didn't look evil. She didn't even look proud. Instead, she looked tired, like someone who had waited too long in the dark. "3 wishes?" he repeated. "Yes," she said, her voice almost sad. "Name them, and they will become real." He looked around. The room, the bottle, this glowing girl. It all felt like a dream. But the warmth of her light on his skin told him it was real. He thought for a long moment. Most people would wish for gold, ships, power, immortality. Oren could have asked for anything. And yet something in her eyes stopped him. The way she stood there, not like a queen, but like a prisoner. Then, slowly, he said, "I wish you were free." The words hung in the air like stars. Lyra froze. Her glowing eyes widened. "What?" "You heard me," he said. "I wish you were free. No more bottle, no more master." For a moment, nothing happened. Then the golden rings on her wrists cracked and fell to the ground. The air around her shimmered. She gasped and held her chest as if feeling her own heartbeat for the first time. Tears rolled down her glowing cheeks. "You fool," she whispered. "Do you know what you've done?" I set you free, Oren said softly. Lyrae looked at him, stunned. No one had ever made that wish. No one had ever cared. For thousands of years she had been used, trapped, ordered, and now she was free. The bottle on the pedestal crumbled to dust. Why? She asked, voice shaking. Because no one should live in a cage, he replied. Lyrae took a step closer, her light dimming into something gentle. You used your first wish. For me? Yeah, Oren said, trying to smile. I think you deserve it. Outside, the ship creaked. The red sun faded behind a cloud of ash. Something unseen in the universe stirred, like a door opening in the distance. Oren didn't know it yet, but freeing her had set something in motion. Something that could not be undone, and Lyrae, she was no ordinary genie, the wish that wasn't selfish. Lyrae stood in silence as the last dust from the broken bottle faded into the air. Her fingers trembled. Her feet now touched the ground like any other being. She was no longer floating, no longer bound by the rules of genie magic. For the first time in ages, she felt real. Oren looked at her, unsure what to do. He expected her to vanish, maybe return to her world or escape into the stars. Instead, she just stood there, staring at him like she had never seen anything like him before. So, you're free now, Oren said, his voice quiet. Lyrae nodded slowly, still watching him. Yes, and I do not know what to do. Well, he shrugged. You don't have to stay here if you don't want to. She tilted her head. Why would I leave? He blinked. I mean, I thought you'd want to. You were trapped. Now, you're free. Lyrae looked around the empty chamber, then down at her own glowing hands. I was created to serve. Now that I don't have to, I feel like a ghost. Oren scratched the back of his neck. Look, I have a small hut. Not much, but you're welcome to rest there until you figure things out. For a long moment, she didn't respond. Then she gave a small nod. Together, they walked through the scrapyard. The path was rough. Old ship panels and broken droids blocked the way, but Oren knew how to move around. He jumped over a pile of cracked metal and offered his hand to help her. She looked at it for a second, then took it gently. Her skin was warm, softer than he expected. This place is too strange, she said, glancing at the endless junk mountains around them. It's ugly, Oren replied, but it's home. His hut was built into the side of a fallen cruiser, patched with scraps and solar panels. Inside, there was a small bed, a chair made from an escape pod seat, and a solar heater that barely worked. He had a few canned meals, stacked in a corner, and an old radio that buzzed with static. Not much, he said, but better than a bottle, right? Lyrae smiled slightly. Better than silence, yes. Oren made her tea. She didn't need to drink it, but she held the warm cup and watched the steam rise. I never tasted anything, she said softly. Until now. They sat in silence for a while. The soft wind outside made the metal walls creak. Can I ask you something? Oren said. She nodded. You've been trapped for so long. And still, you called me a fool for freeing you. Why? Lyrae looked down at the cup in her hands. Because freedom always has a price, not just for me, but for you too. He raised an eyebrow. Me? Yes. The universe does not like broken rules. And I was a rule. Genies serve. Humans wish. You change that. And change creates waves. Something will come. Oren leaned back, in his chair. Well, bring it on. I've lived with worse. Lyrae looked at him with something deeper than gratitude. It was respect. And something close to sorrow. You still have 2 wishes left, she said. Even if I'm free, the magic remembers. Yeah, he smiled, but I'm going to be careful with those. A few days passed. Lyrae stayed with him, learning to cook, fix panels, and even laugh. She liked how Oren didn't ask her to do tricks or use magic. He treated her like a person, not a tool. One night she stood outside looking at the stars. Oren joined her. You miss it? He asked. I don't know what to miss, she said. I was always inside that bottle. Time was frozen. I only remember voices, wishes, demands. Sounds lonely, she nodded. But now I hear your music, your jokes, even your silence. It's strange, but I like it. He smiled. Well, you're welcome to stay as long as you want. But the peace didn't last. It started with the ground humming softly beneath their feet. Then lights in the scrapyard flickered blue and red. Machines that hadn't moved in decades twitched, turned on, then fell still again. Leray stood quickly. They've noticed. Who? The Watchers. The ones who keep balance. They know I'm free. Can they find you? They will. Oren looked around his hut. It wasn't built for fighting or hiding, it was just a shelter for a lonely man. But now he had someone else to protect. What if I used my second wish to hide you? He asked. You'd vanish with me, she replied. Or worse, you'd be erased. Okay, he said, thinking. What if I wished you safe no matter what happens? Lyrie stared at him, alarmed. Oren, be careful. Wishes bend reality. They work, but they twist. He looked into her eyes. I'm not afraid of bending it if it means keeping you alive. Before she could stop him, he whispered, I wish she is always safe, no matter what happens. The world around them bent. Everything twisted. Sound, light, air. Lyrie screamed, reaching for him. But it was too late. Oren vanished. Just like that, he was gone. She dropped to her knees, shaking. The wish had obeyed. It kept her safe by taking him away. The heater flickered off. The radio died. The stars outside seemed to pull back. And Lyrie sat in the dark, alone again. But this time, she wasn't a prisoner. This time, she had a reason to fight. The price of freedom, Lyrie didn't move for hours. She sat on the cold metal floor of Oren's hut. Her hands clenched tightly around the warm cup he had once given her. It was empty now, like the chair across from her, like the space where his voice once lived. Oren was gone. Not dead, not broken, just pulled from her world by the wish meant to protect her. And worst of all, it had been his choice. She could still hear his voice echoing in her memory. I wish. She is always safe, no matter what happens. Magic had twisted, the words just as she warned. It hadn't built a shield or created a safe room. It had taken the danger away by taking Oren himself. She stood slowly and stepped outside. The air was colder now. Even the sky looked different, as if the stars were watching her. This is what freedom costs, she whispered. Not chains, but loss. Lyrie raised her hand. Magic still flowed in her blood, but it was no longer obedient. It was wild now, ancient and raw, not bound by the bottle's order, and she had no control over it. The wish had shaken something loose. Her fingertips sparked with blue energy that hissed like broken fire. Machines in the scrapyard began to react. Some woke up, scanning the air. Others trembled in fear, recognizing her for what she had become. Not a servant, but a rogue force. And something else had felt the shift too. From the dark edge of space, in a realm beyond mortal light, they stirred. The Watchers, not gods, not demons, but cosmic keepers of balance. They didn't speak. They didn't feel. They only corrected. And to them, Lyrie's freedom was a threat, a broken law screaming across the stars. One by one, they turned their faceless gaze toward her. Back on the junk moon, Lyrie had begun to search. Oren's hut had nothing magical, but he left behind clues. His journal was filled with notes, old engine maps, half-sketched machines, and even small poems he never showed anyone. In one page, she found a strange symbol he'd drawn many times, a star inside a broken ring. She stared at it. She had seen that symbol before, in her visions while trapped in the bottle. It was the seal of the Prism Gate, a forgotten portal created by beings who once controlled time and space. Rumor said it could pull anything lost back into reality. If the price was paid, that's where he is, she whispered. He didn't vanish, he was taken into the gate. But the gate was not nearby. It was hidden inside a forbidden system, the Shard Seas. No maps led there. Only old myths. And yet, she was not just myth herself anymore. The journey was long and dangerous. She rebuilt a ship using scraps from the scrapyard. Its hull was weak. Its engine was powered by pure magic, her magic. Unstable, fiery, risky. As she flew, space around her rippled. Stars flickered in and out. Gravity twisted. She was walking between laws now, no longer fully bound by science, not fully trusted by magic. Her body changed too. Her glow faded into a pale shimmer. Her eyes became softer, more human. Not because she was becoming weaker, but because she was becoming herself. And in the silence of the cockpit she whispered Oren's name, again and again, like a charm to hold her steady. But the watchers did not sleep. They sent a scout. It came like a shadow, dark, wide, silent. A floating ring of black metal and silver fire. No windows, no life signs, just humming silence and a pulse like a drumbeat in the void. When it reached her ship, Lyri felt it in her bones. The ship's systems blinked off. Lights died. Her magic flared but wouldn't focus. A voice entered her mind. Cold, unfeeling. Final. You are not permitted. Return to the chain, she gritted her teeth. I won't. Your existence is a crack in the balance. Correction is required. Lyri raised her hands, trembling. Then you'll have to fight me. From the black ring, beams of pure null light shot out, meant to erase, not harm. She barely dodged, spinning the ship through floating ice fields. Debris exploded behind her. The scout followed, silent, perfect, unstoppable. Inside her chest, something burned. Not just magic. It was rage, sorrow, love. The need to hold on to the only thing that made her freedom worth it. Oren. Her hands moved, faster. Her magic synced with the engine. The ship bent space, one last jump. Just before the beam hit, she vanished. She woke up shaking on a small moon of glass. The prism gate stood in front of her. Tall, broken, forgotten. Its stone was cracked, humming with whispers. It was shaped like a triangle with no end, glowing slightly under the pale stars. She walked forward. As she placed her palm on the gate, memories hit her. Thousands of voices, wishes, laughter, screams. All from beings who once touched this gate. And, somewhere in that storm she heard him, Oren, trapped in silence. Not hurt, just alone. Her magic reacted to the sound. The gate pulsed. A voice emerged. Not hers, not his, but old. Older than time. To open the path, a truth must be given. She stood still. What truth? Why do you search for what you gave away? She looked, down at her glowing hands. Because he gave himself for me, and I'm not whole without him. The gate didn't speak, but it opened, just a little, enough to show her the next trial. She stepped through, and behind her, far in the dark, the watchers gathered, not to fight, but to watch what a human's wish had awakened. Not destruction, but something far worse for them. Hope. Escape through shattered stars. The moment Lyri stepped through the broken prism gate, the stars changed. They didn't shine. They bled. The space around her wasn't like any galaxy she had known. It was silent, but not peaceful. Instead of stars, sharp lights floated like shattered glass across an endless dark ocean. Broken planets spun slowly, their cores glowing blue, like wounds that refused to heal. She floated above it all, not standing, on land or inside a ship, but suspended in what felt like memory. A voice called from the dark, not a whisper, not human, but familiar. Come closer. She didn't know if it was Oren or not, but her heart pulled toward the sound. The farther she went, the heavier her body became. Magic sparked in her chest, wild and raw, barely under control. She was walking between life and something else, something ancient and half-forgotten. As she moved forward, pieces of the world began to rise. Ruins, old towers made of stardust, broken glass bridges, golden statues holding nothing. She stepped onto a floating shard of land. Beneath it, stars flowed like rivers. Around her, wind whispered in a language that tasted like forgotten names. And then she saw it. In the center of this strange broken realm stood a tower made of clear crystal. Inside it, Oren floated, unmoving like a dream frozen in time. His face was peaceful, his body surrounded by a field of light. He wasn't hurt, but he wasn't awake either. Lyrae rushed forward, but just as she reached the edge of the platform, a wall of fire blocked her path. A figure stood in front of the tower. It wore robes of blue and silver. Its face was covered by a mirror mask, and its hands were thin like spider legs. It wasn't a watcher. It was older than them. "He does not belong here," the figure said, its voice echoing like many voices layered together. "This place is only for those who choose silence." "He didn't choose it," Lyrae said, her voice shaking. "He made a wish." "And so he became part of the wish," the figure said. "He is safe, untouched, perfect. This realm honors the price." "Then take me instead," she said. "Give him back." The figure tilted its head. "A soul given freely cannot be replaced, only awakened." "Then how?" The mirror mask flickered, and for a brief second Lyrae saw her own face in it, only older, sadder, fading. "To wake him," the figure said slowly, "you must speak the truth of your heart, without magic, without lies, and he must choose to return." Lyrae stepped closer. The fire around the tower trembled. She placed her hand on the flame. It burned, but she did not pull away. "Oren," she whispered, "you once wished to protect me, but now I wish for you. Not as a genie, not as a servant, but as someone who saw me when I was nothing." The tower pulsed. "I was afraid to care," she continued, "because I thought freedom meant being alone. But now I understand. Freedom means choosing, and I choose you." Inside the crystal, Oren stirred. His fingers twitched. His eyes opened, slowly. The light cracked and the tower began to fall apart. The masked figure raised its arms. "You have disturbed the stillness. Then shake the stars," Lyrae shouted, pulling Oren free as the glass broke around them. The realm began to collapse. Shards of memory fell like snow. Old statues turned to dust. Bridges snapped in midair. Lyrae held Oren tight and summoned her remaining magic. A small ship formed around them, made of glowing energy and old light. It was unstable, shaking, falling apart already. Oren coughed, his eyes wide. "Where are we?" "In the space between dreams and rules," Lyrae said, strapping him into a seat. "And we're breaking out." He looked at her. "You came for me?" "Of course I did," she whispered. "You gave up everything for me. Now let me return the gift." She gripped the controls of the ship. Engines flared, more magic than metal. The whole world around them cracked open, stars shattering into white dust. Behind them, the masked figure screamed, a sound that broke reality. But they didn't stop. The ship shot forward, through walls of burning light, through fields of echoing voices. Time bent. Space screamed. Outside, creatures of glass and fire tried to pull them back. Shadows with long arms reached from the darkness. But Lyrae's magic held firm. She wasn't just a genie now. She was a force of will. She whispered ancient words, not as commands, but as songs of freedom. The gate appeared ahead, still broken, still flickering. They slammed through it, back in. The real universe. A streak of fire lit the sky above the scrapyard planet. Oren's ship, half magic, half scrap, crashed into the old hills of rusted steel. For a moment, all was still. Then a hatch opened, and Lyrae climbed out, pulling Oren with her. They collapsed in the dust, coughing, gasping, alive. He looked up at the pale red sun. "We made it?" "Yes," she said, laughing softly. "We escaped." "From what?" "From silence." That night they sat beside a small fire, wrapped in a metal blanket. Oren stared at the stars, then turned to her. "I remember now. The wish. I said, long, keep her safe. I didn't know it would take me away." "I did," she replied. "And I still let you do it, but I came back." He smiled. "Was it easy?" "No," she said, "but nothing real is." A breeze passed. The scrapyard whispered its metal songs. Machines blinked in the distance. Oren reached out and took her hand. She didn't float. She didn't glow. But in that moment, Lyrae had never felt more powerful. But in a hidden corner of the stars, the Watchers were not finished. They had seen something strange, something dangerous. A human who made a wish not for himself, and a genie who chose love over power, and that kind of story was not easy to erase. The second wish. The fire in the scrapyard crackled quietly. Around it, broken ships stood like rusted statues, silent watchers of two souls who had defied fate. Oren sat close to Lyrae, her hand resting in his. The glow of her skin was softer now. Not magic, not power, just light that came from within. For the first time in days they were quiet, not because they had nothing to say, but because everything had already been spoken through the way they looked at each other. "So," Oren said finally, "do I still have one wish left?" Lyrae nodded slowly. "You do. The first one freed me. The second one took you away. The third still sleeps inside you." "Then maybe I'll save it," he said, "for something big." "Bigger than love?" she asked with a smile. Oren grinned. "Maybe for dessert." They both laughed. But deep in the ground below them something stirred. They didn't know that the Watchers had not given up. Oren's wish had broken rules, and Lyrae's freedom had cracked something far older. Balance. Across the void, in a place with no name, the Watchers gathered again. They stood around a black sphere spinning slowly in space. Their voices were not heard, but the universe felt them. The human soul bends reality. It must be studied. His third wish is unspoken, unpredictable. It must not be allowed to exist. The genie has awakened emotion, attachment, identity. She is no longer a tool, she is dangerous. From the darkness, a new shape formed. Not a watcher, a hunter. Forged of silver bones and lightning veins, it had no face, no heart, no name. It was built for one purpose: to erase what should not exist. It opened its wings of fire and flew. Meanwhile, Lyrae walked with Oren through the scrapyard. The sun was rising slow and red. Birds with metal feathers flew overhead, nesting in the broken satellite towers. "What do you want to do now?" Oren asked. She looked up at the sky. "I want to see things, not with magic, with eyes, with heart." "Then, let's fix my old ship," he said. "We can leave this place." They spent hours gathering parts, laughing, arguing over wires, remembering little things. It felt like life was starting again. But as Oren climbed into the engine room to reconnect power lines, Lyrae suddenly stopped. Her skin glowed blue again. Her heart thudded like thunder. "Oren," she whispered. He popped his head out. "Yeah? Something's coming." He didn't ask how she knew. He just moved beside her, looking at the sky. Then they saw it, a burning line cutting through the clouds. Fast, sharp, glowing red. The hunter had arrived. It landed on a hill of broken war machines. Its body hissed with heat. Its silver limbs moved without sound. Its face was a mirror with no reflection. Oren stepped forward. "What is that?" "Not a watcher," Lyrae said. "Worse, this one doesn't care about rules. It just erases. Me. Me. The hunter raised one hand. The ground beneath Oren cracked. His body shook. Time slowed. Space twisted. Lyrae screamed and jumped between them, throwing a shield of magic around him. The hunter's hand pushed through the shield like it was paper. She fell back, coughing, sparks flying from her chest. Oren rushed to her side. "No, Lyrae!" She touched his face. "You have to use the third wish." "No," he said firmly. "No more wishes. We do this together." "Oren," she whispered, eyes full of light. "I'm not afraid to die, but I'm afraid to lose you again." He stood up, turning to face the hunter. His heart was pounding, his breath sharp, but he wasn't afraid. He looked the hunter in its empty face and shouted, "I wish I could understand her pain." The wind stopped. The stars dimmed, and then Oren screamed. Not from injury, not from fear, but because a wave of memory, grief, and ancient loneliness slammed into his chest. He saw her life. The bottle, the voices, the endless commands, the cold of being used for centuries, the silence after every wish, the feeling of being forgotten over and over again. He fell to his knees, tears pouring from his eyes. Lyrae crawled to him. "Oren, why?" he gasped. "Because if you carried that alone, and still chose kindness, then you're stronger than any magic. And I want to carry it too." Behind them, the hunter paused. Its code broke, its purpose blurred. This was not in its design. Emotion, sacrifice, shared pain. The hunter tilted its head. Its fire wings folded. It took one step back, then it vanished, just like that, like a shadow deciding not to fall. The scrapyard was quiet again. Oren lay on the ground, his chest rising and falling. Lyrae held him close, her arms trembling. "Your wish," she said. "It wasn't power. It wasn't safety." "No," he said weakly. "It was to know you." They stayed there until the stars returned. The final wish had not granted something selfish. It had connected two hearts, and in doing so, changed the laws the Watchers thought were unbreakable. But in a distant void, one last Watcher still remained, silent and watching. It had not moved. Yet, because now, the question wasn't just what can a human wish for, but what will love awaken next, the heart of forgotten light. The scrapyard lay quiet, but something in the air had changed. Oren rested beneath the wing of his half-built ship, a warm cloth wrapped around his shoulders. His skin still trembled from the pain of the third wish, but his heart felt stronger than ever. Lyrae sat beside him, her hand never leaving his. Her glow was softer now, no longer the sharp magic of a bound genie, but the steady light of someone who had chosen to stay. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. A wind passed through the junk hills carrying a soft humming sound, like music trapped in metal. Birds with wire wings circled above and scattered into the sky. Oren looked up. "You hear that?" Lyrae's eyes narrowed. "That sound isn't from this world." Suddenly, a beam of gold light cracked open the sky. It didn't fall, it rose, from the ground near the heart of the scrapyard. Old machines nearby began to move on their own, shifting and lifting, as if answering a silent call. "That's impossible," Lyrae whispered. "The core was dead." "What core?" Oren asked, standing slowly. "Beneath this planet, there's an ancient star seed, long forgotten. It's not just junk buried here. It's history. Old light. It used to power cities beyond time." They ran toward the light. As they climbed the scrap hills, a hidden entrance opened in the ground, revealing a tunnel lined with gold veins and glowing circuits. No one had ever found it. Until now. "Why is it opening now?" Oren asked. "Because the third wish awakened something," Lyrae said. "Not just inside us, but inside the universe itself." They stepped into the tunnel. Inside, the walls pulsed with light. Not artificial, not magic, something in between. It felt alive, like the heartbeat of something long asleep. They walked in silence for minutes, or maybe hours. Time twisted underground, but the deeper they went, the warmer it became. Not heat, from machines, but warmth like sunlight through memories. Finally, they reached the chamber. And there it was, a floating crystal sphere, larger than any ship, glowing with soft golden fire. It spun slowly above a circle of ancient runes. Oren stepped forward. "What is this?" Lyrie stared at it with wide eyes. "This is the heart of forgotten light. It's what the Watchers feared would awaken. The last living piece of the first star." "What does that mean?" "It means it remembers everything, even the things the Watchers tried to erase." Oren placed a hand near the sphere. It pulsed once, bright, soft, welcoming. And then it spoke. Not with words, but with feelings. Oren saw flashes, Lyrie's past the first time she was sealed, the sorrow of being wished upon again and again. He saw stars being born. He saw the Watchers being created, not as keepers of peace but as jailers of choice. And then he saw himself. Not just a man, but a thread of light, glowing brighter than expected. "Why am I seeing this?" he whispered. "Because," Lyrie said, tears in her eyes, "you are no longer just a human. Your third wish, it changed you." "Into what?" "Into someone who remembers." Oren turned to her. "Remembers what?" "The feeling before wishes, the truth before power. You reached into the core of someone else's pain, and you didn't run. The heart of light remembers people like that. It chose you." Suddenly the ground trembled, the golden light flickered, and, high above them, something cracked open the stars. A final Watcher arrived, not like the others. This one had no shape. It was made of silence, and it came to erase not bodies, but stories. It descended into the chamber like a shadow falling upward. Oren held Lyrie close. "We don't run." "No," she said, standing firm. "Not anymore." The Watcher did not speak. It simply unraveled the walls, turning stone into dust, memories into blankness. The heart of light began to dim. Lyrie's body shuddered. Her magic flickered. "It's trying to erase the past," she said. "Our past." Oren clenched his fists. "Then we'll remind it." He walked to the heart of light, placed both hands on it, and spoke. "I remember the bottle, the chains, the laughter you never joined. I remember the silence you were trapped in, and I remember the moment I saw your eyes, not glowing, but human." The sphere pulsed. "I remember the price of freedom, the taste of pain, the sound of your voice when you said my name." The golden light spread. "I remember that you're not a wish machine. You're Lyrie." And the sphere blazed. The chamber exploded with golden fire. The Watcher screamed, not in pain, but confusion. It couldn't delete what was loved. It couldn't erase what was chosen. Oren turned, his body glowing with light that wasn't magic, but memory made solid. The Watcher tried one last time, reaching forward to remove him from reality. But Lyrie stepped in front of him, holding her hand to the sky. "We are not yours to silence," she said. The heart of light flared once, and the Watcher was gone, not destroyed, but forgotten. They returned to the surface at dawn. The sky had changed. The sun was brighter, the wind softer. Oren and Lyrie stood hand in hand, watching light fall on the junk hills like it had never done before. "It's over," he said. She smiled. "No, it's beginning." He looked at her. "What now?" She squeezed his hand. "Now, we write our own story." And far, far away, the stars whispered. Not about wishes, but about two hearts. One human, one once trapped. Both now free and remembered. The final wish. The wind swept over the scrapyard like a soft sigh from the universe itself. Broken ships no longer groaned. Old machines that once sparked with dying energy now lay still, as if finally at peace. Oren sat on the edge of a hill, made of starfighter wings and hollow engine cores. Beside him, Lyrae stood barefoot, her feet pressed to the warm metal. No glow surrounded her now. She looked like a woman, no longer bound by magic, no longer a creature of ancient rules. Just her, and Oren saw her more clearly now than ever before. The silence between them was not awkward. It was full of things that didn't need to be said. Still, one truth remained, a question, and a choice. "There's still one wish left," Lyrae said, her voice calm. Oren looked at her. "You said the Heart of Light remembered us. Does that mean the Watchers won't come back?" "Not in the way they once did," she answered. "We changed the path. What they feared has already happened. Emotion broke their order. Memory melted their silence." He turned back to the horizon. "Then maybe I should just never use that last wish. Maybe that's the safest choice." She smiled softly. "Maybe. But the universe listens to those who choose, not those who hide." Oren nodded slowly. "Then if I do use it, it should be for something real." Lyrae looked into his eyes. "What would that be?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood and reached into his pocket. He pulled out something small, a piece of the golden light crystal, now cooled and solid. He held it between his fingers, watching how it reflected the twin moons above. "This," he said, "is a piece of a world that once forgot what love looked like. And now it remembers. Because of you." She stepped closer. "No. Because of us," he smiled. "I want that memory to last, not just here, everywhere." "Oren," he took her hands in his. "Then I know my final wish." A soft hum echoed through the air. No lights flashed. No portals opened. Just a breath. A simple word. Oren whispered, "I wish that every forgotten soul in the galaxy could remember who they truly are, even just once." The wind stopped. Time didn't freeze. It listened, and then, quietly, it obeyed. Across the galaxy, something subtle began to happen. On distant prison planets, prisoners stopped shaking. They remembered their childhood songs. In cold, silent labs, experiments paused, suddenly overwhelmed with emotion they thought was gone. On warships ready to strike, generals wept, hearing the names of children they'd tried to forget. On lonely moons, exiles smiled for no reason. Even among the Watchers, those who remained hidden, some turned to one another, and for the first time asked, "Who are we really?" Back on the scrapyard, Lyrae gasped. Oren caught her as she stumbled. "What's wrong?" She shook her head slowly, tears in her eyes. "I felt it. Your wish. It didn't just echo. It connected. Every forgotten story, every lost heart. It felt light for a moment. Just a moment," he said softly. "Sometimes," she replied, smiling through tears. "A moment is enough to change everything." They sat together under the twin moons, watching stars shift like fireflies across the night. Oren leaned back on his elbows. "So that's it then. All three wishes used, no power left." "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe power was never the point. Maybe it was just the beginning." He looked at her with soft eyes. "You never told me what you'd wish for." She thought for a long time, then answered quietly, "I'd wish to be remembered, not as a genie, not as magic, but as someone who learned how to love." "You already are," he said. She turned to him. "And you?" He smiled. "I just wanted to be someone you'd remember." Lyrae leaned in and kissed him, gently with the weight of centuries behind it. It wasn't magic. It wasn't destiny. It was a choice. Their choice. Years passed. Oren and Lyrae turned the scrapyard into a haven. Travelers came, drawn by stories, of a place where machines healed and people remembered who they were. They built a small station from old parts, No weapons, just light, laughter, food, warmth. Lyrae taught others how to listen, not with ears but with hearts. Oren fixed old ships, built gardens from broken parts, and carved names into stone. Names of those who had no graves. Only memory. The last wish never faded. It lived in every hand held, in every tear shared, in every story told under the stars. And in a small corner of the galaxy, a boy once raised on silence now laughed louder than anyone else. Far, far away, the watchers no longer sent hunters. Instead, they listened. For the first time in the history of stars, they listened, because one human had made a wish not for himself, but for the forgotten, and one genie had shown that love is the greatest magic of all. This was never just a story about wishes. This was a story about choosing, and they chose each other, again and again, until the stars themselves remembered their names.